5-second board has been and gone. Red lights are about to go on. Then it's going to be a 20-minute race for the ZAMP Helmet Sports 1000 Championship race. They're underway now, and it was a marginally better start by the number 5 car of Michael Roots from pole position then. But it's 67, Victor Newman has the lead, and crucially, in the battle between the two championship contenders, it's Ryan Yarrow that, well, was ahead, but now Richard Morris going around the outside of him at Rich's corner. By the looks of it, will pick them up again as they head up towards Wilson for the first time, and that is the 72 car of Johnny McGill in second place, and everyone trying to be third, and it's the 5 car, the pole position car that's there at the moment. Richard Morris now getting ahead of Ryan Yarrow, but they're both being passed by the looks of it, just by Richard Miles, I think that is. Yeah, returning to the series, but a great start here from Victor Newman, and then in second, Johnny McGill. But yeah, Richard Miles is going well. You can see the rain coming down there at Palmer. It's been very mixed conditions over the lunch break. If you were with us this morning, you saw the rain started at the end of the previous race, and it's just sort of drizzled all the way through lunch, and Richard Miles is making the most of it. He's second now from 6th on the grid. The former BMW racer, well, he's third again now because he's third, isn't he? So both the Mattels are back in front, are they not? Of yes. Jonathan McGill. So it's changing all the way on this opening lap, and very slow through Hamilton is McGill, and he's got the 2 Spire Championship contenders behind him, Ian. Yeah, again, you sense that there might be a spit on tyre choice at Oggies, though. It's Yarrow trying to go around the outside of Richard Morris, but Morris was able to keep hold of the position there because Yarrow really was a bit delayed by the pole position car, but it's side by side for the lead of the race. Then it's Victor Newman gets out of shape, so too actually does Michael Roots. The 2 blue Mattels then out in front, and then they've got Richard Miles, who's made this great start to the race. He started 6th, he's up to 3rd place already. He's carrying a lot of speed as they go down the Bentley Straight for the first time in this race. But it's Newman that turns into Brundle in the lead of the race then, from Roots in second and Miles in third. We'll try and keep an eye on what's going on just behind them as well, because it's crucial for the championship battle. Well, just behind them in 4th place is Johnny McGill, but it's Richard Morris at the moment ahead of Ryan Yarrow, and those are the 2 battling for the championship. Just wondered if there was a brush between the 2 Mattel teammates at Williams, Newman and Roots, but they got away with it. If there was, it was very close indeed. They are the 2 main championship contenders. Though, here's the battle of a second. Roots v Miles, Mattel versus Spire, and they turn their way down towards Murray's. I don't think we've seen Richard Miles for 12 months, have we, out in this car? And he's going very well indeed. There's McGill, then the 2 Spires behind. And I guess with them this far down the order in, it could that bring either Michael Roots back into championship contention? I guess they're just a bit too far away. Yeah. Touch there. There was a touch. That was Yarrow, just a bit of his bodywork, or Richard Morris's bodywork coming off there as they made slight contact under braking for Richards. Here is the challenge for second place, though, and it's Miles on the outside line of the number 5 car of Michael Roots, and just about there, some elbows involved, what Richard Miles gets through. Yeah, some pretty strong driving, isn't there, in the early stages. You're just trying to find the grip and you're sideways and trying not to go off the road. Jonathan McGill's lost a couple of places, hasn't he? Both Morris and Yarrow ahead of him, and that means he's fallen into the clutches of Stephen Bell. I think it's the first time we've seen Stephen Bell out in this Spire, is it? That's the or what you saw Joe Lock drive in the season, isn't it? The car that he's in. There's Colin Chapman, who's in his 199th race of the championship, and he is batting away there with Stephen Bell, and who, again, has been racing, I think, in the category for some time, but not so much recently. Yeah, so they make their way out of Agostini. There's the battle for 4th and 5th, so those 2 did make their way ahead of Johnny McGill in 6th position, and there we can see side by side a bit further back. That's the 21 car of Phil Hutchins. He's there with Colin Spicer, the 2 Spires, but running out wide there is Hutchins, I'm afraid, number 21. And he loses a bit of time there. Not too much in the way of positions, but nevertheless, he's back onto the circuit now. Showed the grass cutting abilities there of the Spire. Rally course ability. Damage there, is that to the side of Cole Austin's car? Yeah, looks like it. Bit of a biff taken out of that. All 15 cars that started got to the end of lap 1, though. Here's the battle for what is now 6th position, isn't it? Jonathan McGill ahead of Stephen Bell and ahead of Colin Chapman as they exit out of Nelson. And to come towards the end of the second lap, as Ian said, this is a slightly longer race than some of the 750 Motor Club categories. 20 minutes nowadays for the Sports 1000 Championship. And Mattel cars looking for their first win of the season at the end of 2 laps.
it is still Victor Newman ahead, but Richard Miles does the fastest lap. He's chasing after passing Michael Roots, 2:19.49 for Miles, which is some 8 seconds quicker than the pole lap, but some 20 seconds off the lap record. So even though we're going quicker than this morning, Ian, we're still a long way away from ideal conditions.
Yeah, absolutely. Colin Spice there, you can see, involved in the battle. There we can see it is still Richard Morris, number 2, ahead of Ryan Yarrow, 54. Ryan found a lot of speed over the course of the winter, did a lot of work learning about the setup of the car and setting it up himself in the right way, and it really does seem to have worked for him. He's really come on in bounds this year, with Richard Morris also finding more pace with a different car development car this year. As we watch here, the battle for the lead, I should say. Victor Newman, 67 then, the 22-year-old project developer in a French racing team, under pressure here from Rich Miles, number 24, who, when we have seen him out, has been quick. But we've not seen him out very often. He's going to try and go around the outside of Oggies, though, to get the place away. And it looks like he is going to do it. Yes, he's done it. Rich Miles, then, from 6th on the grid, moves into the lead of the race on the third lap. Second lap, indeed.
Third lap.
Yeah, go on.
1.2 seconds he was behind at the beginning of the lap. However, that margin was reduced quickly, and then using the outside line, he found grip there, didn't he, Richard Miles? But now he's under pressure because the Mattel in the tow was looking back up the inside of Richard Miles into Brundle. But he was unable to go through, and now through the twisty bits can Richard Miles get away. But is this setup, is this tyre choice? We know earlier in the day the first half of the lap was wetter than the second half of the lap, wasn't it? And perhaps though Richard Miles, is he actually quicker all the way through the lap, because he is now starting to get away once more from Victor Newman as they turn their way through. Victor Newman is 4th in the championship. He's had a 2nd and 3rd, 2 podium finishes this year. Once the 3rd place was at the first round back here at Snetterton, but on the 200 circuit, and the 2nd place was last time out at Anglesey. There is car number 2. That is Richard Morris chasing after Michael Roots now. Yeah, and importantly for Richard Morris and his championship aspirations, he is ahead of Ryan Yarrow, but he'd much rather get some cars between himself and Yarrow if he possibly could. They've gone toe-to-toe, really, this season, both of them getting 3 wins, as Rich Miles there goes quite deep into the Wilson hairpin, but manages to keep hold of the lead. Different line here being taken by Richard Morris as he tries to attack the number 5 car of Michael Roots, but unable to do anything about him. He'd like to get that Roots Mattel between himself and the other Spire of Ryan Yarrow. Incidentally, not since 2017 have we had a Spire win here on the 300 circuit. Danny Andrew in the Mattel won both races on this layout last year. But here is our race leader in the Spire, and it is Rich Miles ahead of 67 Victor Newman. Looks like we've got a new camera angle down there as well, which looks pretty good. I don't think I've seen that used before. On the previous lap, the 2 Spire championship contenders were the 2 quickest cars on the road, and now Richard Morris goes ahead there of Michael Roots to the outside into the right-hander Oggies, and we saw that grip was found here earlier for Richard Miles, and the same can be said for Richard Morris, and Ryan Yarrow doesn't want to waste any time behind the Mattel, and he slots up the inside of Michael Roots. I don't think he gave Roots much option there other than to back out and let him go by.
No, and you wonder if Roots is on perhaps not really quite the optimal setup and tyres for this race, because he has struggled a little bit, hasn't he? And he's dropped back down the order from that pole position. The 35-year-old account manager from Wokingham, did a couple of years in low cost, but lots and lots of years in karting in various different championships. So very experienced, but not so much in car racing and not so much in Sports 1000, because he's only been racing in it this season, having done low cost before. So really this battle that we've got now for 3rd place, Morris v Yarrow, is a key one as far as the championship's concerned, with just one more race to go after this, and that's tomorrow.
Absolutely. So they turn their way through. Because, of course, last time out, was it, where Ryan Yarrow had his non-finish,
yes,
didn't he? And doesn't want to replicate that, of course. Was that a car problem rather than any kind of incident?
It was a retirement. I can't remember exactly why, but he had been leading at the time, and Richard Morris had been running in 3rd place in that race, but with the almost simultaneous retirement of Yarrow and Danny Andrew, then it sort of rather gifted things to Morris, although he had just passed Andrew before Andrew's retirement.
And to note, Danny Andrews' car is being driven by Tom Johnston this weekend, so it may say Aspire on the result sheets. It's actually the Mattel that was up for sale. So whether this car has already been sold to Tom Johnston or whether Johnston's just given it a run out this weekend with the view of buying it, not sure. But there's 3 Mattels out there. And lots of Spires, and then we've got a Contour too, haven't we? The car of Ian Kempson that's a bit further down the order. Fastest lap last time went to that car, 54, Ryan Yarrow, 2 minutes 14.08, which was a second quicker than Victor Newman was doing in second place. So can Morris and Yarrow, now they've got a bit of clear road, go after the top 2, because their pace suggests that may be a possibility as we move into this the second half of this race, Ian.
Yeah, absolutely right. It's going to probably be a 9-lapper, I would think, for these cars. There is Morris then, number 2 in the Spire. Spire, the concern run by Paul Nightingale for many years up there in Chesterfield in Derbyshire.
And Newman, is he falling into their, or starting to fall away from Miles and into their clutches? Because the gap at the beginning of the lap was 3.5 seconds. And you kind of would suggest that is the case no more.
I agree with that. I think he's certainly closing on Newman is Richard Morris. So the Mattels here just fading a little bit as the race goes on, particularly Roots, but Newman now not able to live with Richard Miles and being caught by Richard Morris. So they head through Coram and towards Murray's for the 5th time in this race. As Josh said, we're just into the second half of the race now. Turn their way out of Murray's and onto the centre straight, the start and finish straight. That was Miles going across the line, the leader, being caught by Newman and Morris. And what's the gap now between Newman and Morris? It's down to about 0.6 of a second.
Look at Richard Morris's pace. He's 2 seconds quicker than the leader, let alone Victor Newman. So I think Richard Morris can win this yet. Ryan Yarrow is kind of going with him. So the 2 Spire championship rivals, there they are, almost coming together, are the 2 quickest cars on the circuit by quite some way. So whether this again is going back to Ian's point about the setup, about the tyre choice, now coming good for the second half. Richard Morris drives around the outside of Victor Newman and goes into second place through Palmer.
Now, can Victor Newman do Richard Morris a favour here and keep Ryan Yarrow, the Rochdale driver, 30 years of age, behind him? He's an electrical design engineer by occupation. There's Richard Morris, who works in education. He's a university lecturer and tutor, and he is being done a bit of a favour here by Victor Newman, really, because he is managing to get out a few car lengths, I reckon, over Ryan Yarrow, with Yarrow delayed behind the Mattel. Oh, and Phil Hutchins has been off again, I'm afraid.
Yeah, rather different for Phil Hutchins compared to his podium that he got here last year. Here comes Ryan Yarrow. I think he might have done it this time. He's very wide out there. I was worried he was putting a wheel on the grass, but I think he just about avoided that and has gone around the outside at Williams to get what is 3rd position. So Victor Newman, who led early on, is now off the podium positions. But look at the gap that has grown between Morris and Yarrow because of them. Mattel's good in a straight line, isn't it? And Newman comes back at Yarrow, but not at enough. He cannot go through then as they turn their way through Brundle and out of Nelson on this, the 6th lap of the motor race.
Yeah, at the moment they've got a Spire 1, 2, 3, which I think we did early on in the season, second race here at Snetterton, and also the first of the races at Silverstone as well. I think that was the outcome, 3 Spires out front.
This time it's the older shaped car, is it not, of Richard Miles that leads the way?
It is, and as we say, we've not seen Richard Miles thus far this season. Over the line goes Miles, and he's now got Morris right with him as they came up and over the line. The gap was virtually nothing, and Morris up the inside. Can he get the lead of the race even away from Miles? At this stage, no, he couldn't. It was 2 tenths between them at the start of the lap, though. So on that lap, Morris did a 2:10.82, much faster than anybody else.
Yeah, as you can see on your screen, 2.5 seconds quicker than Richard Miles, who's sideways now. In fact, it's a newer shaped body now on that Miles car, isn't it? So perhaps he's updated it since we saw him last. But of course, Richard Morris has got the new GT320S, hasn't he, for this season? So a few modifications on that car, as we were saying, run by the Works team. But as he's battling with Richard Miles, I'm going to suggest that Ryan Yarrow is catching them. He was 2.5 seconds behind at the beginning of the lap, and he's right with them now as they turn their way out of Agostini.
That makes sense, because although Morris was much faster than anybody else, Ryan Yarrow was the next fastest driver, and Miles, although leading, was slower than both of them by quite a margin. So what's happening sort of makes sense here, and that they are being bunched up behind Rich Miles now. It won't be easy, I don't think, to get past him. Watch Richard Morris get through now. But as they turn their way onto the Bentley Straight for the 7th time, with probably just a couple of laps to go at the end of this one, we have a good race on our hands, and I think it's going to be a race between Morris and Yarrow, the way things are shaping up. Heading down to Brundle. On the left-hand side of the picture, you've got Rich Miles. On the right-hand side, Rich Morris. It's hard to tell who is ahead, but it is Morris that takes the lead into Brundle then on lap 7. And again, he's got a car between himself and his championship rival, Ryan Yarrow, which could prove vital, because Rich Miles probably, again, won't be too easy to get past.
And the next thing he wants to make sure he keeps that fastest lap of the race, an extra bonus point going into this race. What was the gap on drop score? Something like 5 points in the favour of Yarrow?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's going to come right down to that last race. It's going to pretty much, I reckon, whoever comes out best tomorrow, if the positions finish as we kind of expect them to do. Ryan Yarrow is yet to get into second. Yeah,
1.24 seconds is the advantage for Richard Morris. There goes Yarrow up to second place, but that delay could prove crucial. There's a car that stopped on the outside. So that is the Tom Johnston car, isn't it? That's stopped there at Rich's. The Danny Andrew Mittel. Miles tries to fight back. Now, how far behind Richard Morris now is Ryan Yarrow as they head down to the left-hander at Palmer? The answer to that question is not very far, I don't think. They turn their way through the left-hander there. There's Miles now in third position. So we've done well for a number of different leaders in this race, haven't we? Quite a few of them. There's Yarrow then making his way up to Agostini. And, yeah, just ahead of him is Richard Morris there. In the number 2 car, runner-up in the championship last season.
Yeah, if it finishes like this year, I reckon it'll be just a 1 point that separates the two drivers going into tomorrow's race, which really then does mean it all depends on that race tomorrow, who comes out best, which actually makes it much more simpler for everybody to know what the race strategy is going to be.
It does. And the grid already set for that, of course, because it's second fastest qualifying time. Is that the case these days?
I think it might have changed this year.
It has changed, hasn't it? Yeah, it's results of race 1, I think. Correcting myself.
Which means, if it finishes as it is, it will be a front row for the two of them, but obviously it's got to stay as it is now. There's Yarrow. Where's Richard Morris gone?
Well, was he so far out in front that it was out the front of shot, or has he disappeared completely and we've missed him? Certainly we've got Victor Newman there in the third car in that group. Will this picture...
If he's ahead, he's extraordinarily
I
far
can't see him. I think we've lost Richard Morris.
Well, that's what happens when you start to look at the spreadsheets, isn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't looking at the spreadsheets. I still missed him, but I think there it is Richard Morris, the championship second place man coming into this weekend that's gone missing. We'll see if we can pick that up on the cameras in a moment, but I think we'll find then that it's Ryan Yarrow that's coming through in the lead of the race. Yes, it is. Over the line he goes. Miles in second. And Victor Newman in third. So we've lost Richard Morris, and now it's Victor Newman having a look up the inside of Richard Miles into Richie's that time, but he couldn't make it through.
There goes Richard Morris. I think he's down to 4.
He's had a spin, hasn't he, I would have thought.
Didn't this happen in the first race of the season here at Snetterton as well?
Yeah, Miles gets a little bit out of shape there up at Wilson.
If he stays 4th, that'll be a drop score, because he's been on the podium, has he, in every race so far this season. He has 3 wins, 2 seconds and a third for Richard Morris.
It does kind of level things up in a way, with Yarrow having had that DNF at Anglesey. Newman has another look at the inside of Miles for second place into Agostini, but doesn't make that work. Yeah, so it would just kind of level it up. The problem is Richard Morris has 4 penalty points that he was awarded for an issue in qualifying at Silverstone. So that means that they are deducted from his total, and that's something that maybe will prove decisive in the championship as things stand by the end of the year. But a bit of a mystery as to what happened to Morris there, though.
Indeed. Last time I said if all went wrong. But if they stay as like they are, I think Ryan Yarrow will only need to finish 4th tomorrow. But
yeah.
there are still, this is the last lap, isn't it? But that anything could change yet, as we saw on the previous lap.
Absolutely right. So it's Ryan Yarrow then, looking for what would be his 4th win of the season, and actually would be a win at each of the meetings, as Newman now does get ahead of Rich Miles for 2nd place there, as they head into Brundle and Nelson. So it's Spire, Mittal and Spire now, the order. And somewhere in the background, quite a long way in the background, should be Richard Morris, but in 4th position. He crossed the line about 11 seconds behind Newman at the end of the previous lap, which was the penultimate lap. So we're working the final lap now, and up to the line will come Ryan Yarrow then in the number 54 car to take the checkered flag, and a decisive victory it will be in the penultimate round of the ZAMP Helmets Sports 1000 Championship. There he goes, takes the win then. Newman 2nd and Miles in 3rd place. And we just need to check to see if it is going to be Richard Morris that's going to cross the line in 4th position. Yeah, over the line he goes now. Rather disconsolate, I would think. 4th position, the number 2 car.
Yeah, he's going to be left rather frustrated, isn't he, after that issue for him.
He did get the fastest lap, which is 1 more point than otherwise he might have done. But as you say, it's still a drop score in spite of that. And I suppose it stopped Ryan Yarrow getting it.
Yes.
Neither of them got the point for pole, which you get in this. That went to Michael Roots, who finished in 5th position in the end.
Yeah, he had one of the slowest laps of the race. So he was quick at he was kind of quick for about the first lap, wasn't he? And then dropped away. Some quick lap times coming in at the end for James Walker. He finished 9th. He was one of the quickest cars on the circuit at the end. But behind the top 4, it was Roots that was 5th, Jonathan McGill 6th, 7th Stephen Bell, 8th for Colin Spicer, 9th for James Walker, and 10th for Colin Chapman.
Yep, that's the way of things in the first of the 2 races this weekend for the ZAMP Helmet Sports 1000 Championship. As the final few cars just coming across the line. That was Carl Otten who had some damage in that race. He comes across the line now in 12th place behind Phil Hudgens despite his 2 spins. And then we should have Ian Kempson and Stephen Dean, the 2 other drivers that finished that race. So the final round of the ZAMP Helmets Sports 1000 Championship race is tomorrow morning, tomorrow lunchtime, 12:15. It is. The last couple of cars do come across the line now. That is Kempson and Dean to round things out. Kempson in the Contour and Dean in the Spire.
So down here with our 3rd place man from the Sports 1000, which is Rich Miles. Richard, that was a great start to the race. You were leading, you're back in the Sports 1000, but the hard charges came through towards the end, but still a great race.
Yeah, no, it was really good to be fair. I was amazed at the start I got. I just felt really good in the car, driving around the outside of people. No, it was good. It was good. I thought I was getting a bit of a lead, but then as the sort of front runners got through the bit of traffic, I was holding on as good as much as I could, but it wasn't enough.
What were the conditions like? Because I reckon some people went for different tyres. What did you go for?
Yeah, I went for wets because I tried the slicks in qualifying this morning and they were useless. So it was slippy, but they just had a lot more bite and you could feel them a bit more on the brakes. So yeah, the first 2 laps they just felt mint, to be honest. So I was really confident. It was just holding on down the straight. So I was trying my best, but people were just driving past me, and I tried to fight back, but. Bit of a shame, but I had good fun. So.
And of course, you're out here for race wins. You know there's a championship going on around you, so I'm sure you're much aware of that.
Yeah, I saw Morris and Yarrow came past me. I didn't want to put anything stupid on them. I know they got their own fight, so I didn't go too mad once they got past. And hopefully they kept it clean. So.
Well, good podium today, and good luck for race 2, Rich.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.